what they call Kapton tape. It's a polyamide tape, and it has a silicone-based adhesive to it. The nice thing about this is that the silicone adhesive does not leave any residue, and it's kind of almost like rubbery enough to where when you do like the masking on the canopy, you're going to get no bleed through whatsoever. Typically this is used in the electrical industry to mask off boards that are going onto a solder fountain. So the tape itself is high heat resistant, chemical resistant, so your paints and your thinners will not bother it at all. I typically like to use this because one of the advantages is it's translucent. So when you're doing canopies, you can tape off a section and see where the actual panel lines are, and the stuff is kind of like a mylar, so it's real easy to trim. So we'll start off with...
How thick is it, Dave?
It's really, really thin. It's probably thinner than Tamiya tape. I'll pass around some stuff. This one here is already, I've masked it and painted most of it, but I left one piece on so you can see how easily it looks when it's done. This one I started masking so you can see curves. Oh, here it is. There's a Corsair one that has a nice curve to it. And this shows you how you can mask off panel lines, and using a toothpick you can push the tape into like the panel lines so you don't get the bleed on the panel lines. So we have some other parts here. Basically you just need a really good sharp blade, toothpicks, a pair of tweezers. For us old people, we need better eyes. And let's see what we got here. So we have a canopy here that was brought in that we're going to mask off a little bit, and I'll show you how it's done. So basically, the nice thing about this stuff is it, like I said, it cuts easy. The thinner widths have a little bit of stretch to them, so you can get around the curves on canopies and surface detail. It sticks everywhere. So basically what I do is, let me put some light on here because it's easier to see with my old eyes. I just take off a piece, and there's 1, 2, 3 windows here. So you put on the tape. You can cover as many windows as you can with a piece of tape. If there's curves, you can pull it a little bit to stretch it. Like I said, these come in various lengths. We've got small, medium, and large. There's 4 sizes. It's like $11 for the whole kit of all 4 sizes, and it works really well. Then all you have to do is you find your edge, take your knife, you carefully just score right along the edge.
You like the X-Acto blade for that?
Yeah, just a regular X-Acto blade.
Where do you get that stuff?
I buy it. I have a link on my website that you can buy it right from Amazon. Like I said, it's $11 for 4 rolls of different widths. And
This is what it's called.
Kapton is the copyright name, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it works good.
The Grace at the end of the table is one of the ones that I because the canopy was closed, I did it while it was on the model. So I taped everything up, installed the canopy, which, like I said, because this resists chemicals, if you do it that way, you don't have to worry about the glue seeping up on the outside of the canopy and making a mark, because it'll protect against the glue. And then you just peel off the little pieces. My wife, tell her I'm busy. The one thing that you need to do is when you peel off is watch the corner, because sometimes if you don't have, you know, the two sides cut, it'll start to peel off. Now, once you've got it masked, you take your toothpick and you just go along the edges, and you're going to see the tape. You know, it'll be a lot more clearer on the edges as it seals, so you actually get to see that it's sealed on the edges. I'll just do the edges on this and pass it around, and you'll be able to see how at the edges the tape looks different, knowing that you have it masked. Say that 12 times fast.
Where can you buy that tape, David?
You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it at any electrical store, electronic store. There used to be a place called Ohm Electronics out this way.
You know electronic stores that carry that?
Electronic stores will carry it, yes.
Kapton, is that with a K or?
Kapton. And then once it's on, you can leave this on, you know, like if you're going to be, some of us can't work every night, you can mask it up for a while, and it won't degrade in any way, shape, or form. And then once you paint it,
Pretty nice.
it gives you a really nice finish.
Yeah.
So I just did 3 windows.
And it doesn't bleed. That's the difference.
It doesn't bleed, and even when you're painting, like masking for fuselage or wings, you can press it into the panel lines.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna, you know, like on near metal finishes,
that's cool.
If you want to make certain panels a darker silver, but you want to mask them off first, you can mask right into the panel lines.
Press is done like on a B25. I was looking at that. I was wondering how they did that.
Oh, yours?
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, as a plus, if anybody wants to, you know, take a roll, you're more than welcome to.
Well, I'd like to see what roll if that's all right.
Yeah,
Can I buy it
what
from
size you want? No, you don't have to buy. Now
I'll
this
take the
one
bigger
here
one,
that,
'cause I make the bigger stuff.
yeah, the bigger stuff. And also, like
This.
on my bench, I have a piece of glass that I tape down.
Yeah.
And this is the stuff that I use to
Really?
tape the glass down to use as my working surface.
Wow, that's nice. Thank you so much.
If nobody takes it, I'll take it. Well, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But on this one here,
This
since
is on the B24.
did everybody get to see the one that I had painted?
I like this.
So all I'll do is
This is cool.
and there you go. First time taking it off, and it's no bleed through whatsoever. It's great tape. For those of you who saw my Magic by Moonlight lighted model a few months ago, the scallop wings, that's how I did it. I took a piece of glass and put it over the stencil, and since it's transparent, I just cut right where I needed the scallops to be, peeled it right off the glass, and put it right back on. You can peel it off and put it back on,
I think I saw it, you put it on there, so.
and that's pretty much it.
How long have you left it on for, over time, Dave, that you can go back without?
On the particular one that I did over there, I built a PV2. It was on there for quite a while because I had a lot of stuff that I was doing. There was multiple colors of paint, so I had to tape off. I had to paint it white, tape everything off, paint the dark blue, the canopy, and all that stuff. It was on there for probably a month. And like I said, it doesn't degrade. It's not affected by any chemicals. I've had it where I went to go paint a canopy and the color that I was using wasn't really the right color I wanted. So I just took the thinner and wiped it all off, and it took all the paint off, but the tape never left.
What about super glue fogging? Will it prevent that?
It will prevent that as well. If you're gonna, like on that particular one, if you were gonna then spray the model, because that's the open side of the PV2. If you were gonna spray the glass, you can put a piece right on the inside and it keeps it from fogging up. On my E2D that I built, the windows on the real E2D are tinted a goldish color. That's what I used. I just put it on the inside, stretched it a little bit because the windows were bubbled a tiny bit, and had no problem.
Okay.
And that would be good for an EA6B.
EA6B, even
B25, I think is colored, or is it green?
it's usually green.
Green, yeah.
But you know, if you want something that's a goldish color, like as an example, some of the sensors on modern jets, like the FLIR pods and that kind of stuff, just cut a circle out, put it on.
Yeah.
It works really well. Like I said, it cuts. If anybody wants to come up here and try, I left off some windows on here. If somebody wants to come up and give it a try, you're more than welcome to.
Sacrificing the Hellcat canopy? Shame on you.
Was this Hellcat?
That's a Hellcat.
It might have been. I don't know. I had a whole bunch of clear parts extra that I decided to bring with. But
Could
yeah,
be an A6.
Ghost of Leroy Grumman is
Texan.
going to be visiting
Looks like
you
a
in the
Texan.
night.
Yeah.
I mean, you can actually see the gold hue that it leaves. Curves, you cut out your circles, you can cut out
F-16s.
the F-16s, F-22s. I don't know if the F-35 is goldish or I know that they're tinted slightly, but I think they're tinted black, not the gold. And it works very well. Any questions?
Bring the box over. For the tape.
Oh. Yeah. And there's multiple brands of
How
it.
did you discover that?
I work at Northrop Grumman, and we were working on some CCAs, putting them on what they call a solder fountain. You mask off the card, and then there's certain parts that sit on it, and it actually goes through a solder bath. But they didn't want
wave
solder.
soldering?
Yeah, like a wave solder. And they didn't want, you didn't want solder going everywhere.
Yes.
So you tape off the sections that you need. And then one day I had some at work, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then I brought home a small roll of it, and was like, wow, this is cool. So then I went online and found out where to get some, and I've been using it for years, masking canopies and that kind of stuff. Like I said, the Grace over there, all the canopy was taped before I painted it, and then everything was painted, and I just peeled it off.
To me, I thought it was just a machine that did it because it was so perfect.
And it comes out straight,
Yeah, it really
and
does.
if you're trimming and you trim a little off, because it does take a little bit of steady hand, depending on how deep the canopy rims are framework is. You can just peel it off and put it back on again. Put on another piece, and I bought a four pack of these probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I still haven't used it all. So, I mean, it lasts a long time. For curved ones, it's better to put the thin stuff on the edge and then use the thicker stuff to go over the main part.
Yeah.
Because the thinner it is, the easier it is to stretch. The wider stuff is, you gotta take a little more pressure to stretch it, but the canopy for the Corsair, I put the thin around the edge and then put a couple of big pieces over, and then, so.
And you just put the tape over the area that you don't want paint to go on.
Right.
Right, then you cut it away with it.
And then you just trim and you can peel off, like on this particular one, I did 3 windows at once. And then just peeled off the excess. The other thing that's nice about this stuff is if you put, like in this particular instance, I did the bottom 3 rows.
Yeah.
When you go to do the top, if it hangs over and it sticks to the surface of this, it doesn't stick hard enough to where it'll pull what you've already masked off.
Right.
You know, like with masking tape, sometimes if you get some on another part, it'll pull it off. Huh?
Yeah, it's easy to release.
No, I'm done. I'm just doing the demonstration. This is probably the size you would need to mask it, though. So, take it.
So when you peel it off, you just take a toothpick and lift under an edge?
When it's all done, I either use a toothpick or I have, a fine tip pair of tweezers. You just lift up the corner a little bit, and then when you peel it off. And you're also going to notice when you peel it off, the paint that is on the tape will actually fall off.
Yeah, because
It'll
it's
crack off like a old decal. And then it'll be clear.
explodes.
Yeah, because nothing sticks to it. That's what's nice about it.
Nothing
Yeah.
sticks.
But it doesn't cause the paint to like fisheye or spread out. You can paint it, but then once you flex it, it comes right off.
Have you ever done masking where you needed to do a custom, and use that as the, like you take masking tape and you make your pattern and then you spray it and you peel off? Have you ever tried using that for that?
Yeah, I did that with my my Magic by Moonlight plane.
Okay.
All the wing edges and the tail edges had scallops, black scallops, and a red plane. And the instructions gave you a little picture of the scallop. So I scanned that into the computer. I scaled it to the size of the model itself. I put the sheet of paper down. I put a piece of glass on top of it, and then I put the thick tape on top. And I just took my X-Acto knife and just traced on it, and then peeled off what I didn't want, and then carefully peeled off the other one and stuck it on the model. You can do that with, make curves. Just like making a regular.
Yeah, I was just worried about, it's stretching, so,
It stretches, but it doesn't stretch. It stretches a little, like if you're going to go around a curve, but it doesn't stretch a lot like you would think.
It doesn't distort.
Right. I mean, it's strong,
Yeah.
but it will stretch a little bit on the edges, and that'll give you the flexibility. And because it does have that little bit of stretch, like I said, when you're doing the panel lines, you just place it over the panel. There's one of the panels here. Oh, here's one. Once you put it over the panel, you take your little toothpick and you just go in the panel lines. Now, I'll pass this around before I do the panel lines. You can see how the panel lines look lighter, but once I'll do half of the panel, you can see what it looks like after you press it into the panel lines, which keeps the paint from flowing in the panel lines.
So on camouflage, using camouflage and everything too?
Any camouflage that is using a sharp edge, yeah. I've used it on, like, when I do the tricolor on the old Navy planes with the white, and I've used it on there. On the old planes, they had the black walkways on the wings.
Yeah.
You can tape that section off and then just paint it, peel it right off.
No bleeding then.
There's no bleeding.
Yeah, okay.
As long as you take the toothpick and you rub the edge, that silicone adhesive that's on there seals.
Yeah, you gotta burnish it.
Yeah, you gotta burnish it a little bit.
Like a toothpick, To secure the edges then, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can actually see the color difference of when it's secured. I'll pass this around.
Take pictures of it with your flash. And then send it to me.
So pass that around so people can look at the panel. Half the panel is pushed in,
Except for your planes, Japanese.
and
No, I think, Dave, we gotta have your touch to do it. You're a very skilled guy.
it's really not that difficult to do, because the Mylar is easily trimmed. You don't have to put a lot of pressure to cut through the tape. Once you, like in the corner of the window, you just push it enough, and you can actually hear the tape kind of pop a little bit, and you just carefully, you don't have to put a lot of pressure, you just bring it straight across with a nice sharp blade, and it trims perfectly straight. So
I wondered how that was done.
you're not pushing too hard on the plastic to actually score the plastic.
Yeah, that's
You're
the
just
thing.
cutting the thin film layer, and then when you peel it off, you put the toothpick on it, it'll seal the edges, and you'll get no bleed through. I use an X-Acto knife. For some of the curved canopies, I have a number 14 scalpel, because it's kind of curved, so it's a little easier to, when you're doing a curve, like as an example, the Corsair canopy, when you're doing the curve on the top, it's easy to go off the frame.
Yeah.
So, but I have a number 14 scalpel that's curved on the outside, on the inside. So I just put it on the side and just kind of walk it across.
Yeah.
And it cuts perfectly around the curve without having to.
Scalpels
When you
are a
get
lot
bubbles
sharper.
in there, how do you get those out? Do you have to lift it up and relay it down?
I never had bubbles in it. I usually lay it down first before you do any trimming, and if there's any air bubbles, you can pick up the one side and then
Yeah.
re-put it back down before you start your trimmings. You make sure there's no air bubbles in the middle. Now, like on curved canopies, you will get little areas that open up on the curved part when you're using the wider tape, but that's why the thinner tape that you put on the edge keeps that from.
So it's a tighter fit then.
Right.
Yeah.
If you look at this one, two sets of eyes tonight. If you look at this one, you can actually see some spots where the wider tape didn't stretch and it sticks up, but you can see that I pressed down on it with my finger, and even though it's there, it's still protected underneath, so that when you peel it off, it'll all come off as one piece.
So heat or cold doesn't affect it then?
Heat,
Once it's
cold
down?
doesn't affect it, chemicals do not affect it. It's, the model glues, the CA glues,
Really?
thinners, paints, different types of paints. Some like lacquer paints are a little hotter than others. No effect, it'll
Amazing
avoid
stuff.
all chemicals. That's what it was originally designed for, was to protect the circuit cards. And solder typically is sitting at between 600 and 650 degrees Fahrenheit, and the tape has no effect on it. The solder doesn't stick to the tape.
Well, it's amazing.
It is.
It's amazing, really is.
So, any more questions?
Cool.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Anybody want a thick roll of it?
You got your Jan?
I got one.
Not a problem.
Very good.